Love and longing. Things had gotten worse after they had both the Harkle and the Barley's families in custody, or rather, they had less than a fifth of the local families near each other. It turns out the extended families were mostly scattered around the local nearby towns, and everywhere one of them went, the other followed to keep hurting them, and the cycle continued. All told, when all the reinforcements finished falling into the trap of the officers, Miro Noir and Vernon working together had gotten them all without casualties. But they now had to hold nearly 700 belligerent women screaming for each other's blood. This could have gone a lot worse. When one side finds themselves attacked, they call for help before going out to fight, and it can lead to a full-on war. Is this common? Miro Noir asks in surprise. No, unless you count roughly once every 10 years common. You may or may not have noticed, but none of the Barleys or Harkle family are of an age where they need a regenerating coma. Children, two families of bloodthirsty children. Two families of bloodthirsty, incompetent children who are thankfully forced to live in 3 to 4 different houses each, so it's not a straight-up war every single time they bump into each other in the street. Officer Finry Gore clarifies. That seems to be the last of them, unless we get another flying van full of crazy women swooping at us. Vernon notes as he walks up and dusts off his hands. Right, Finry Gore says before a tone goes off from her armored vest. She pulls out a specialized communicator. Officer Gore, go ahead. Please escort, politely, Princess Miro Noir and Sorcerer Vernon Shea to the station. We need their statements in an official capacity. Confirmed, Finry Gore says before looking between them both. Please? It's all right, officer. I'm a servant of the Empress just as you are. Perhaps a little more directly. But we will gladly go with you. Won't we, Vernon? Oh yes, and hopefully you'll be willing to answer a few questions I have. Don't forget, the Barless boys have made contact with the Dark Forest. They're going to be sorcerers one way or another now, and I'd rather it be peacefully. I think we'd all prefer that, sir. Thank you for your understanding. Officer Finry Gore says, and both husband and wife nod. Quite the excursion, isn't it, my love? Miro Noir asks Vernon, who chuckles. And even now our babies are sleeping peacefully. You're still watching your children? I've braided flowers around their nursery. I can see all of our adorable hatchlings, even now, sleeping peacefully, Vernon says. That's convenient. Finry Gore notes before snorting in amusement. My apologies, I just imagined the potential of sorcerer babysitters or the like. It's an old trick. Every sorcerer before me has used it to watch over their families, Vernon protests. That's actually the least fearsome thing I've heard about sorcerers. There's a reason they're considered the best possible husband for a battle princess, Miro Noir notes. Wait, is that why you're all so eager to get in the way of a rampaging sorcerer? Your husband hunting? No, we're performing our duties to Serbo and the Empress. Any additional prize at the end is nothing more than a happy bonus, Miro Noir states. Besides, they don't always end up in a marriage. Do recall Morgarkun, the city shaker. Calmed and conquered the sorcerer may be, but he's still a bachelor. I think Alara Sam the Younger may be working on that, though. Vernon notes with a grin. Yes, but the point stands. She's not the battle princess who bested him. Wasn't he beaten by the Empress herself after he accomplished his goals? Finry Gore asks, even as several more police girls and a tug swoop in from the direction of the nearest station. Yes, but I think the point still stands, Miro Noir asserts. Exceptions can prove the rule. That Morg Arkin is so odd compared to the others really does show that most are different, Vernon says. Wow, that was a poor way to say that. My goodness. It was still understandable, my love, Miro Noir says as she clearly smothers a laugh. Well, it's something else I need to keep working on. No matter how adorable it is, it can be cute to tumble over oneself every now and again. But constantly? No, not a good thing at all. Vernon notes before rubbing his chin. Before we leave this place, will their other homes and bases be checked in case there are more children or potential explosives? Yes, we have to, as a matter of protocol. These two families have been at this long enough for there to be a proper protocol, Mironoir asks, somewhat aghast. Yes. How? Why has the local lady not stamped down on this and ground her boot into the mess? Why are the adults of the family not in some penal colony and the children in foster care? What's going on? I don't fully know. People are playing at something and I only know about the low-level nonsense. Which is, Vernon presses. I'll give you the files at the station. The sooner we clear out of here the better. The Barleys and Harkle are regular criminals, but the rest of these people do not deserve to have their days interrupted by this unending drama. Finrey Gore promises. It's one she makes good on. How has this woman not been arrested for this? Mironoir asks, as she reads over the report of a construction company where one of its major forewomen was offering a friendly discount on unused and overstocked items to both families on the sly. Because technically the crimes are always below a certain level, meaning just fines at worst. The closest she got was within 3 tri-tight credits to a proper sentence, but the woman has been counting her coins very carefully to stay just this side of that punishment. Finrey Gore says as she stirs her drink. She's out of the armored vest and has removed her cap, but is still very much in uniform. The problem with the Barless and Harkle is that there are too many people who benefit from this stupidity, including the local Duchess. Could you please expand on that? Mironoir asks as she passes Vernon the data slate about the forewoman. Simply put, the Barleys and Harkle families used to be noble houses. They still are technically. However, they've lost all their favor and capital in the generations of striking at each other, which of course fueled the feud even further. Is the inciting incident still known, or relevant for that matter? Vernon asks, but doesn't look up as he shares what he knows with the other sorcerers and Dark Forest. Currently, House Quen rules over this piece of the Alranath Queendom. They have the ennobled part of my own family, House Gore, and our rival House Dretton directly under them, and that's the level the Barless and Harkle used to stand at. You're a noble? Mironoir asks as she examines Finrey Gore's uniform again. There are no embellishments to signify such on her. No, but technically yes. I'm so far down the lines of succession that a full 3% of this entire queendom would have to die before I get the title of Lady Gore. My family isn't the wealthiest or the most politically savvy. That's House Quen and Dretton respectively, but we are the most numerous by an enormous landslide. And how much of the Alranath Queendom is the Gore family? Just shy of 10%, Finrey Gore says with a smile. Then she outright laughs at the boggle-eyed look on Vernon's face. It's not so hard to do when every member of the family is fighting and breeding fit for centuries. Most families slow down after a while, Mironoir states. Gores aren't like most families, but we're off topic. Now, the initial fall of the Barleys and Harkle from grace began some 400 years ago. Most of this has not entered historical record, but I have family who were there at the time. Finrey Gore begins. It was a matter of debate when the previous Duchess, Lady Thalie Dretton, had been on a vacation when a pirate raid had attacked the area. She was thought killed in the attack, and a fierce debate occurred as to who would replace her. After a lot of jockeying, promises, and power plays, her fourth-born daughter took the crown, just in time for the furious mother to return and the entire family to dissolve into infighting. Why wouldn't this be in historical record? That's the kind of high drama that keeps a history class interesting. I'm getting to that, for as this was happening, the other houses were making their own moves. My own saw disaster coming and stepped back and away to remove ourselves from the conflict. It's why the Gores are so numerous now. House Quen started gathering what they needed for bribing the Queen, and Houses Barlis and Harcool decided to try and throw more chaos into the competition. And they got each other first? Mironoir asks. No, one of them killed the fourth daughter of Thali Dretton, and the other killed Thali Dretton. We don't know who did which, but they were both left holding bloody knives just in time for the queen to arrive and see murder at the court. They were shamed, and they both blamed each other, which started an argument, which then brought up the taste of blood they both already had, so they tried their assassinations again, which led into the rivalry. House Dretton has not once ever had to, nor needed to seek revenge on House Barlis or Harcool because, my goodness, those women were eager to do it for them. Damn. What were they before? What did they do as nobles? House Dretton is political, meaning diplomatic. House Quen likely brings as much wealth as it gains, and you Gors have numbers. What were the Barlis and Harcool before? The Barlis and Harcool were rivals long before their downfall and feud. They used to be the majority of military officers and commanders of Alranath. It was a family tradition in both. But they're so obsessed with defeating their enemies and avenging those they've lost that there hasn't been a Barlis or Harcool officer in generations now. And now, they're reduced to squabbling like children with handguns, Vernon notes to himself. It's a logical enough chain of progression. Both sides saw an opportunity forming, tried to take advantage of it from different angles. This destroyed the opportunity, and were left collectively holding the bag. They then tried to blame each other while they were still covered in blood, and that got two hot-tempered families to monofixate so hard on each other that the people they hurt didn't even have time to turn around before they were feuding in a raw and bloody style. All right, putting aside as to why this hasn't been entered into historical record, Mironoir begins. What is going to be done about the children, or the overgrown children that birthed them for that matter? They retrieve their children every time. We can't give them to foster families because they always get them back. And 200 years ago, the Harcool and the Barlis instead got the same idea and went to get the children of the other's family. They then had another round of murder and mayhem as they tried to take revenge for the mutual kidnapping. But from what we've gotten through scanners since, the family lines are now mixed. Makes sense they share their blood. They seem to be sharing a single brain. Vernon notes as he sighs and leans back. He thinks for a moment, and then a smile crosses his lips. Tell me, what is the Queendom of Alranath's official stance on the Dark Forest? There could be over 100 children, Vernon, Mironoir notes. There could be, and there are hundreds of thousands of Paratak in the forest alone, to say nothing of other hunting targets. There's room, shelter, and food for all the children, and it will disrupt the cycle force both sides to at least pause and consider. He says before sighing, "It's also not fully my idea. The Dark Forest isn't speaking directly, but it is laying out the offer. Condemning children to the Dark Forest," Finrigor says in a tone of horror, and Vernon holds up his hands. "I know, the Dark Forest is a scary place. It moves as it wills. It watches all and shifts and twists even when it isn't outright moving. From its depths come beasts of unnatural size and poisons that can steal the very fire and life from an apuk. To say nothing of the rampages of its children, the sorcerers. However, the Dark Forest is involved. It has a moral and perhaps even legal claim to the three sons of the Barlis as a guardian. What does that revelation do to this situation?" "That," Finrigor says and considers hard. "Does it only want the boys?" Mironoir asks slowly as she clearly considers things. "It's willing to shelter the girls as well, both families even. There is room enough and power enough that even if the children were actively looking for each other, they would never find each other, and that's only if they have to be kept separate." "Why are you so pleased with this?" Finrigor asks. "Well, if there's a bad pattern, a cycle of things going wrong, then giving it a good kick and upsetting its balance is a good thing in my eyes. These women don't see what's happened to them today as a consequence to their bloodlust. It's just another step in the dance, maybe even a relaxing one. Well, time to show them a consequence. They think they can just take back their children after they've been placed in foster care? Well, let's see them do that to an entity straight out of myth, legend, and horror story. Maybe it might get them to think a little. That's harsh, Vernon. They're destroying their own lives and the lives of their children, my love. It's not right to stand by and just let that happen. I didn't say it was wrong, my dear, just that it's harsh. I know, Vernon says. Forgive me. Don't worry. I am by your side. In fact, I think we can aid this a little more. I will need to speak with my sisters in arms, she says, giving him a quick peck on the cheek before standing. I hate to do this, but can you finish up here? The sooner I speak to my sisters, the better. Of course, but before you go, my love, Vernon says as he stands up and takes her hand. A wreath of flowers wraps around her wrist. Hold it to your ear to hear what is happening in our nursery. Pluck a petal to be taken there. Oh, Vernon, you're so thoughtful. She gushes before holding it up, and her face lights up as she can hear the soft breathing and a few light snores from her girls. They're just fine. They kiss and then step apart. Then Miro Noir pulls in a large amount of axiom and is gone. She's teleported to the Empress's palace. Well, this has gone outside of my paycheck, Finri Gore says in a slightly awed tone. Not yet, it's still just a foster care system. I'm here to represent my superior, the Dark Forest of Serbo. I think you'll find that the very old and well-established reputation of rearing children into extremely powerful warriors capable of defending and avenging themselves to be quite the mark in the plus column. By the goddess, Finri Gore moans as she buries her face in a hand.